Welcome to My Jane, My Story, the only show that enables women to share their own secrets and insights to wellness, one story at a time.
Thanks, Paul. Hey, everybody. Happy Thursday afternoon. This is Diane McConaughey at My Jane. Welcome to My Jane, My Story. My Jane is a trusted advisor assisting to address our biggest health concerns like sleep, pain, and stress. We've done the research for you, evaluating and curating each low-dose My Jane box with the finest cannabis and hemp-based products, enabling more informed health and wellness choices. Our mission is to unite and empower women through community, education, and exploration of cannabis solutions. There is so much overwhelming information out there, so we decided we needed to come together and share stories by creating My Jane, My Story. This is a place to talk about real-life experiences so we can be better and do better by helping one another. Every journey is unique and every path is special. We are extremely grateful to have our guest here to share with us. This is a non-judgmental space where every question is necessary to learn and shift our perspective on this plant. So today we get to chat with an amazing veteran who is the founder of one of the sister companies of My Jane. I guess you could say he's like a brother to us. Kyle Hudson grew up in Huntington Beach, California, where he spent most of his free time skateboarding. After receiving his associate's degree from Golden West College, he enlisted in the Marine Corps and served 5 years of active duty as an Arabic, French, and Spanish linguist, as well as a reconnaissance Marine. Immediately following his active duty service, Kyle was accepted into the University of Southern California, where he received his BA in International Relations. While studying as a full-time student, he held 3 jobs working as a mortgage loan officer, a subcontract administrator, intern at Northrop Grumman, and a Marine reservist. In 2014, Kyle was then accepted into USC Marshall School of Business's Master of Business for Veterans program. After seeing the varying levels of PTSD among peers in the class and being encouraged to look into cannabis for a fellow veteran, he founded Highliners Distribution out of the back of his car in March of 2016. Since then, Kyle has moved 3 times and travels the length of California weekly in order to expand Highliners' reach. With an incredible team behind it, Highlanders has overcome incredible odds and obstacles. They are now on a growth path while helping others feel better with great cannabis products, projecting great success in 2020 and beyond. Kyle now lives in Newport Beach and is studying to become a certified yoga instructor in his downtime from Highlanders. I don't know how you have downtime, Kyle. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So you have a lot going on. It sounds like you have. Can you tell us, thank you for your service first. Can you tell us about your time in the service and what it was like for you?
Yeah, I always tell people it was always either the best job or the worst job I've ever had.
Yeah.
One day you're jumping out of helicopters or riding on a Zodiac and just the best job. You can't believe you're getting paid for this. And then the next moment you're hiking 130 pounds in your pack through the forest or through the woods and, dark, and it's just the worst job you could ever imagine. But it was fun. I couldn't have been luckier. I grew and gained so much from the military experience and got to travel the world, and I gained a bunch of experience and got a lot of education and world life experience that I wouldn't take it back for the world.
Cool. And what is a linguist? Tell me, I don't know. What is a linguist and a reconnaissance Marine? Can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, for sure. In fact, I didn't even know exactly until after graduating the language school. I just had my assumptions, but basically when you're overseas, obviously many times there's a language barrier. Mm-hmm. So depending on what position you get put into as a linguist, your job will vary a little bit, but bare bones, you're basically acting as a liaison between, foreign bodies and, and your forces.
Wow.
So when I was in Africa, I was basically 2011. It was during the Arab uprising or Arab Spring, as most people call it. We were preparing to evacuate Yemen of all U.S. personnel in the case that it got too bad over there. So I was basically acting as a liaison between, our forces, the French government, the Yemeni government, and the Djiboutian government.
Wow.
So we did a lot of things over there. We trained the Djiboutian SWAT team in sniper classes, and I got to translate those courses, which is kind of a cool experience.
Cool.
So the reconnaissance portion of that, basically, at least at the time, reconnaissance was like the Marine Corps' version of special operations.
Okay.
They now have MARSOC and some other things going, but basically your job is to kind of go beyond enemy lines and basically kind of scout out the area.
Okay.
If the commander was planning to send troops over, then they'd send us in. They want to get a lay of the land. Hey, what does it look like?
Yeah.
Are there troops? Are they hostile? Are they not hostile? And basically, you're just painting a picture for that commander, so he has a good idea of what he's sending his guys into.
Okay. Wow.
Interesting
That's-
job.
yeah,
It's
I
definitely an
would
interesting
say.
experience for sure.
I would say that's like, I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm speechless. I don't even know what to say. It's like, thank you for doing that.
I got
and
very
serving-
lucky. Thanks.
Yeah, that's very cool. So you've seen some amazing things, some not so amazing things, and
Yeah, definitely got lucky.
Well, yeah, and I'm
Got
glad
out,
you're back.
got my legs. I'm doing
right.
well. Got to go to school, so
Good.
very thankful.
Yeah. Well, and so do you mind sharing us with what types of PTSD issues you are seeing, or that you see in your peers?
Yeah, I mean, depending on what they've gone through, there's so many levels to it. You get people who really had no issue at all, as though they
Yeah.
worked any other job. And then at the worser side of things, I had a buddy that actually I met at USC, who kind of helped introduce me to the veterans community there. And he, through a kind of addiction to too many pharmaceuticals recommended by the VA,
Yeah.
those addictions kind of grew legs, and before you knew it, he was kind of hooked on other things, and he eventually passed away,
Oh, wow.
which is kind of what brought some of the members of our team. You've met Vinny before.
Yeah.
Vinny was very close friends with Larry, and so when we met again,
And Vinny is one of the co-founders with you, or he's part of the company
he's
as well?
been a long time member, and I think of him as a partner for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
But when we linked up again at Larry's memorial,
Yeah.
that was really when that flip just turned on
Yeah.
for him, and he quit his corporate job and
Wow.
joined the team. And he's so gung ho about just getting that natural medicine out there and trying to help out the veterans.
And what brought you to cannabis? I mean, because you're not, what brought
No,
that
it's a
into
good-
your mind?
It's a good question, because if you think I was, doing the Marine Corps,
Mm-hmm.
and then 5 years later I'd be selling cannabis,
Selling
I would have
weed,
never
you know.
thought.
I know, I mean-
yeah, I know. I wanted to call
Right.
it weed. I would have never thought in a million years that
Yeah.
was the case. In fact, I never even pictured smoking again.
Because you can't. I mean, you can't smoke.
while
Or,
you're
I mean,
in,
you're
no.
right. You're tested and
No.
all that, right?
I mean, people are trying. Ryan Miller is a good friend of mine. He's with Operation EVAC. It's educating veterans about cannabis. And I
Cool.
think one of his major goals is to make it okay for not only veterans but active duty military to smoke
Right,
cannabis or
right.
to use cannabis.
Because I would imagine alcohol is really prevalent, and the narcotics.
Absolutely.
And, which.
I mean, less so the narcotics. I mean, if you have some issue and you go to the VA or
Yeah.
you go to the corpsman, you can get prescribed things. But alcohol is such a big,
Yeah.
I guess, outlet or something
Right,
for
of
for
course.
active duty people. You as soon as you're released for liberty on Friday, you get the weekend off typically, and people are showing up kind of hungover and reeking
Yeah,
of booze to
yeah.
formation. I mean, it's not always the case, but the way Ryan Miller puts it is, if they just smoked the day before, they'd wake up fine and rested,
Right.
and
And they'd be more beneficial as well in what they're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
I think. I mean.
it definitely is a safer option. But
Yeah.
sorry.
Well, so tell us about Highlanders. Tell us how this came about. So you and Vinny met.
Right.
Tell us, tell us about the inception of that.
So actually, so in the Master Business for Veterans program, I met a friend, and he started an edibles company.
Okay.
And we, everyone's a veteran in the class, so we look
Yeah.
at this guy and we're like, "Are you okay? Is everything going okay in your life? Like you're dabbling in marijuana?" Like, it's like this crazy concept to us.
Yeah.
And because he had his ear to the ground, though, he was hearing different news, and he was kind of in tune with what was going on in that industry at the time. And he said, they're starting to talk about something called distribution. It's not required, but in the future it might be required. Maybe it's something to look into. And so we did. Me and a buddy started looking into it, and not many people were doing it. I think maybe there was a couple groups at the time that were doing distribution in cannabis. When I first formed it and first started, trying to build this company,
Yeah.
I would reach out to groups and say, "Hey, we're a distribution company," and they'd be like, "You're a what?"
What is
Like,
that?
What is
Well, so
distribution?
and exactly, tell us what a distribution company is and what it is that
so,
you do.
Highliners Distribution does full service distribution. So basically, we have a full-fledged sales team throughout the entire state.
Okay.
They're generating that interest. They're knocking on doors. They're building those relationships between us and the retailers.
Okay.
So we have a portfolio of products that we represent.
Cool.
and we basically, our goal is to try to get those brands into the retailers and
Into the dispensaries.
into the dispensaries, into the
Because you only work with
services.
dispensaries, is that true? Or do you work with
Any
CBD
kind of
products?
We do work with CBD products. That's something we're going to build out more and more as we go.
Okay.
We really are just trying to because the industry is such an animal right now. Like
Yeah,
it's such a roller coaster.
Right.
Everyone's figuring out as they go. So you know, we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to do justice by our brands and our portfolio, and that we're performing well before we kind of branch out and start focusing on other things.
Okay.
So we do we do some CBD products as well. But right now we're focusing on THC and cannabis-derived CBD products in California.
Okay.
So, you know, once we're generating that interest in our products, then we're, you know, warehousing those brands or those products. We're doing fulfillment, getting those products to the store, and then handling all of, like, the necessary documents, paperwork, and stuff that go along with it.
Okay. And so you're choosing these products. How are you determining what products that you want to
Yeah,
work with?
good question. So our thing has always been since day one is, you know, there's so many products out there, there's so many brands.
Yeah.
But to us, it's not enough. We only want to work with people, like with teams that are just good, wholesome people. So there are 1,000 products out there, but if they don't have a good team behind them of people that we could stand behind, then it's not something that interests us.
Because you wanted to align with what you know, because you started Highlanders for a very heartfelt reason,
Yeah.
So I would imagine you'd want the same.
Definitely
Yeah.
a factor, but also just a matter of doing good business. And unfortunately, I'm sure as in every business, there's a lot of shady people out there, and people will take advantage if they can. And so we just want to basically steer away from that and kind of stay good vibes and around good people as much as possible. So it has to be a good product.
Yeah.
Has to be attractive. Has to be good packaging. If it's a good product but no one's ever attracted to it or interested in it, then it's not going to really move.
Yeah. Right.
And if it's attractive but it's not a solid product, then it's going to be a one-time sale.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the initial things that I'm looking at is it an attractive product? Is it a quality product? Is the team behind it good? And then we get into the more of the details.
Well, and then it's compliant as well, right?
Oh,
I mean, we're
absolutely.
talking
Yeah,
about compliant. I know
especially
we're so
this year.
used to that, but people, we have to remember
Yeah.
that, it's.
And back in the Prop 215 days before recreational passed, that wasn't even a concept.
Yeah.
It's whatever flies kind of.
Because in order for a product to get to a dispensary, it has to go through a distribution company to be compliant. Correct.
Yeah, and a lot of brands do have their own distribution license, so they're able to kind of do their own thing.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be a third-party distributor.
Right.
People could have their own distro license, but that's kind of our bread and butter, is that full-service distribution.
Okay.
Distribution is such a difficult and costly service. We would love to show brands that it makes more sense to just go with someone that specializes in it instead of having to shell out all this money and time and resources into doing it yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have a big job because you're having to build the relationships
tough.
and know what's
Yeah, I enjoy doing it though.
That's great.
Yeah.
Because what a great reason. I mean, so do you have a success story of someone, a veteran, maybe a friend or someone that you've seen that's used cannabis that's had success, or?
Yeah, I mean, going back to Ryan Miller with Operation EVAC, or even Tactical Patients, we've worked with plenty. There's Weed for Warriors, but all these groups are basically, and there's so many veteran groups out now.
Yeah.
And basically everyone's narrative is that, hey, I've been around the block, I've been prescribed pharmaceuticals, I've gone to therapy, nothing helps better than cannabis.
Yeah.
It kind of brings me back down. It kind of clears my mind. It allows me to kind of overlook some of these constant annoyances that are going through my mind and be able to kind of take next steps to cope.
Because it's issues like pain, it's issues like, not sleeping, anxiety, things like that, right?
Yeah, night terrors.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of issues, and luckily cannabis helps with so many of them.
Right.
Yeah, and the science behind it is getting so much more sophisticated that it's really cool to watch it kind of unravel over the years.
It is.
It's gone from,
like we were talking about
cannabis-
earlier, it's like
cannabis-
Cheech and Chong,
Yeah. Cannabis kind of helps with these things.
Yeah.
So now they could say like, okay, well, THCV helps with the stomach
with certain
lining, which,
things.
many veterans who have been prescribed pharmaceuticals have, really taken some deterioration down there, and they can help grow that back and help overcome
And
those
that was
things.
THCV, which
I believe
is,
so. Don't quote me on it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
shouldn't
yeah,
have
but
busted
that's-
that on the air live.
but that's one of the non-psychoactive cannabinoids, because the only thing that's psychoactive is THC.
Well, there are different
if
forms
I'm
of THC.
correct.
Like THCA is non-psychoactive until it's,
Until it's heated.
until it's heated,
Yeah.
and then it becomes. So yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot of science behind it.
I know.
It's definitely been interesting to watch unfold, though.
Yeah, it's so cool to learn, isn't
Yeah,
it? I love
absolutely.
learning about this. Well, great, and I thank you for sharing your story and for what you're doing, because I know that you're in this because of the heart of it, and you're helping so many people, and you're that liaison between,
Yeah,
helping.
that's the goal.
Yeah.
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 I mean, the market isn't just medicinal anymore, so
Right.
there is that
Right.
recreational side of things, and you
Yeah.
kind of have to just, try to cater to both as much as possible. And
Yeah.
Because
How many brands do you have right now?
we have 10 right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm getting at a point where I'm like, we need to slow down a little bit, because
Yeah.
we want to make sure that all of our brands feel like they're taken care of, that they're at home, that they're in a family. I don't want our brands feeling that they're competing against other companies within our portfolio.
Right.
So, there are some similar things, but maybe at different product or price points, or, kind of different demographics and that kind of thing. But we try our best to just have like a really well-rounded portfolio of products.
Yeah. Cool.
To where a dispensary could really buy any one thing from us and be able to fill their needs.
And you have what type of products? Topicals, tinctures? I mean, what kind of
Yeah,
things do
topicals,
you-
tinctures, concentrates, flowers, edibles, drinks,
Yeah,
teas,
yeah.
coffees, beer. You
Oh,
name
beer.
it, pretty much. Yeah, it's a cannabis brew. It's called High Style.
Okay.
They're actually going to be relaunching as Outbound Brewing very soon.
Is it alcoholic?
It's once upon a time it was, but what they do is they extract that alcohol and then they replace it with THC.
Oh.
Which does change the body of
Yeah,
the beer,
I would
but
imagine.
it's craft beer from San Diego.
Oh.
Really great stuff.
I need to try one of those.
It's great. It's great. Yeah, we'll get you on.
Yeah, that sounds great, because I don't drink, and a lot of people I'm hearing are not drinking as much anymore because they're
Exactly.
using cannabis.
Yeah, and that's kind of one cool thing about that product in particular is
Yeah.
so many people who are trying to get away from alcohol and all these things that they've been kind of hooked on for the last years.
Yeah.
It gives them some kind of semblance of their old habits, their old routines that
Yeah.
allow them to kind of ease away from those things. So,
Right.
and
That's
they're
great.
only 10 milligrams.
Okay.
If you're familiar or not familiar, 10 milligrams, it's not a lot, but if you're a beginner, it's not a tiny bit either.
Right.
I think for a lot of people, it's kind of like perfect middle ground.
Mm-hmm.
But, just like alcohol, you're not always just taking shots. You're
Right,
not
right.
just trying to get obliterated.
Yeah.
A lot of people like to just kind of sit back and relax
And
with
sip
it.
it.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's carbonated. It's like that beer flavor. So you're not trying to down it. You just kind of sit back, relax, and kind of sip it. And it's really nice kind of addition to the night.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
We'll have to get you some.
Yes, I need to try this. Do you have maybe a couple things you can leave with people before we head out for today? I mean, just about, what you're doing, cannabis, Highlanders, what would you like to share? Anything else?
Man, on the spot. Good question.
Yeah.
Well,
What's next for Highlanders?
even better question. Like I said, we're kind of building out California. We want to make sure that we have it really down and dialed in
Okay.
before expanding. But we do maybe have a couple other states in mind that we will
good,
hope to
good.
expand to fairly soon in the future.
Cool.
And yeah, I mean, just recently we've really, really well rounded out our portfolio. So I think 2020 is going to be a great year for us. Definitely poised for a successful future. We're on a growth path, like you mentioned earlier,
Good.
and definitely excited to see what 2020 holds.
Yeah. And how can they get a hold of you or Highlanders, or how can they see, what you guys do and
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
products?
So our website is HighlandersDistro.com.
Okay.
Highlanders with a S, DISTRO.com.
Good. Okay.
Or any of our social media handles are Hello Highlanders.
Hello, Highlanders. Okay, and you guys, I know, I love your social media. You guys your whole team has a great social
Thank
media
you.
presence. So, one thing that you can leave us with is, what trends are you seeing right now with edibles or with products? What are you seeing is the most popular at this point?
Oof, good question.
Because new users, veteran users, there's
Yeah,
so many new things coming out.
Well, you mentioned veteran users in particular. I think a lot of people kind of their go-to is just flower,
Right.
which, if you're not familiar, is really just the bud, the plant itself.
Which is what you do what with?
Smoke
it.
which you smoke.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's everyone's kind of just go-to, I think. And one thing that a friend at Santa Cruz Cannabis Coalition mentioned to me was that a lot of people start with flower and that's what they're comfortable with. But after they switch to edibles, they usually prefer that.
Okay.
And I think it's because it's kind of longer lasting,
Yeah.
a little bit heavier hitting a lot of times. And, you're not smoking because, you know, it's better to, I would say it's better to smoke cannabis than cigarettes or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think anytime you could stay away from smoke in your lungs is
Yes,
probably that
absolutely.
much healthier. Definitely not, hating on flower because I love flower.
Yeah. Well, there's a time and place for everything. It's like
Exactly,
alcohol, right?
exactly.
Sometimes you want a beer or a little sip of wine.
Yeah.
Sometimes you want a shot of whiskey.
Yeah. So my favorite product category is beverages.
Okay.
I love the beverages. I feel like they tend to hit faster. I like the taste of them. I like the experience of it. The flavor profiles. So that's one thing I think we're seeing is, and this varies with the season too.
Okay.
When
Yeah, I could see
when it's
that.
colder, people
Yeah.
don't really
They don't
flock
want
to
a
the
cold
beverages so
beer.
much.
Yeah,
Right, exactly.
yeah.
But as it gets warmer, like it is right now, you'll start to see an uptick in beverages.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so
cool.
that's my favorite, and I think we are starting to see a little bit of growth on that end. They're not as popular as I would like to see yet, but they're
Well, you're
definitely
selling
on the
me
upswing.
on it right now, so I think they might get more popular.
We're doing our job. Then.
At least I'll be a customer.
Come on down.
Well, thanks, Kyle. I really appreciate you being here. It
Absolutely.
was
Thanks
great
for having
to hear
me. I
your story.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can check them out, HighlandersDistro.com.
That's right.
Or the Instagram handle again is
Hello, Highlanders.
Hello Highlanders. All right. So thank you for being here today and for being such a great part of the My Jane community. Please share this podcast with all of your Canny Curious friends and family so more people can find My Jane, My Story, and feel better. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at My Jane Social and LinkedIn at My Jane LLC. The quote for the day is, "The brave men and women who serve their country and as a result live constantly with the war inside them exist in a world of chaos. But the turmoil they experience isn't who they are. The PTSD invades their minds and bodies." This is by Robert Koger. So next week we will be here with Antonio Frazier from CannaSafe Labs talking about testing and what the certificate of authenticity, or that COA that we always talk about, means. CannaSafe was the first accredited cannabis testing lab in the world. So join us to learn about this and what the importance of these COAs are. Have a great day. We'll see you next week.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning in to My Jane, My Story. If you want to learn more, you can join the My Jane community at myjane.com. Get instant access to our Facebook group, Facebook community, educational resources, and updates on My Jane products and special events. And for personal attention right now, you can also pick up the phone and call 833-MY-JANE2. That's MYJANE2. And speak to your own wellness concierge, because it's time to own your wellness. Be well.